name is Krystal Gem. And when I was a little girl, I was really, really anxious and really scared of like everything. Like the concept of breathing was really intimidating. That's probably because I have asthma, but you know, that's whatever. I hated being in front of other people. I hated even being asked to sing at church. Although I knew it was something I was totally capable of, it just seemed like a concept that was bigger and more daunting than I could ever imagine to be. I grew up right here in Jackson. I grew up by Powell and Brinkley Middle Schools, and if you're from Jackson, you know that that area is called Shady Oaks, and if you're from Jackson, you also know that it's not particularly a place you tell people you're from unless you really, really have to. I was one of 2 girls my age in my neighborhood, but she and I never really saw each other because she lived a street over, and I was only allowed to play outside if it was in front of our house, on our street, where my mom and grandma could, you know, watch me. So needless to say, I spent a lot of time in the house trying to figure out my own head. I initially went to Boyd Elementary, but was later transferred to McWillie to be part of the pioneering group of Montessori students in JPS, and it was there in grades 1 through 3, and then later on at Power APAC that I started learning that I could redefine and decide who I wanted to be if I explored all of my creative options. It was there that I stopped being so afraid of whoever it is that I'm meant to be. So, I have always had a big voice, but it wasn't the way that I initially started expressing myself. Music's always had a very special place in my heart, and music is where I feel comfortable, but it's, you know, not where I started learning my creative language. I started taking classical voice lessons when I was 7 years old, and at the time, I was like, oh, this is like a really cool thing I show all my friends I can do on the side. I really started expressing myself through the visual arts. And the way that I found myself was that until I started making my own language through the things that God gifted me with, I just thought about myself in the ways that everybody else around me thought about me. Like, oh, she's really, really smart. That girl's so smart, but she's kind of weird. I don't think we should talk to her. Oh my God, that girl is so funny, but she talks a little bit too much. She gets sick a lot. She is too tomboyish, too heavy-handed, and too fat to be considered pretty. I let other people's definitions of who I could be dictate who I was. You know, labels like she's too black, or she's too white, or she's just not enough. I even let my environment tell me who I was and tell me what my limitations were. I mean, remember, being from Shady Oaks, you don't really get to see a lot of people who look like you make it and be successful. But that is 100% okay. And I'm 100% proud of where I'm from. And I'm 100% proud of all of those labels and all of the things that people made up about me, because they set the foundation for who Krystal Gem could become. And they gave me something to remember but still grow out of. So, while being at McWillie and at Power APAC, you know, again, I got to figure out how exactly I was going to redefine who Krystal Jackson was supposed to be. And I figured, firstly, that the best way to do that would be to make the thoughts in my head tangible in the real world. So, through exploring my options through the visual arts, I got to dictate what kinds of spaces I wanted to occupy, but also how much of that space I wanted to occupy, simply by making my thoughts tangible, putting them out into the real world and manifesting them on paper or canvas or somebody else's bedroom walls. Like this one, it's called Indigo Child. I did it my freshman year at Millsaps. And you can physically see just how cluttered my head is, like 50% of the time. You can, in the other one, see the uncomfortable and sometimes weird positions that black bodies have to maneuver in white spaces. And now that, you know, my thoughts are tangible, and after some explanation, hopefully then we can all live in the same physical sphere, but also live in the same mental and emotional sphere, because we're all communicating with the same kinds of concepts, yeah? So, while that was really cool and helped me develop the language that I wanted to speak in the world, that wasn't the only one, because I get bored really quick. So, stepping into another medium, then, I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because while I have hated my voice and while I have been uncomfortable speaking to large crowds, you can't go around talking all this big talk about spaces you want to occupy and how much of that space you want to occupy and still allow yourself to sit in a comfortable limitation. That's cognitive dissonance, and it doesn't make sense, right? So after I decided, I'm going to step into some other spaces, I had to get very comfortable with myself and very comfortable with being vulnerable. But once you figure out the definition that you want to be called and the places that you want to be, you are encouraged to be fearless. And I think that fearlessness is one of the most powerful forces in this world, especially when you allow yourself to be vulnerable through your art. So I think that fearlessness is so important that I wrote a few songs about it, mostly for myself. But now that we're all living in the same physical, mental, and emotional space, hopefully they can be for you as well, and I hope that you resonate with them. I hope that you hear the struggles that a 15-year-old songwriter was facing at the time, the peace and self-love that I found as I've grown in my regrowth and my redefinition, and I hope you have fun as we redefine the things that we are all made of. I'm so very tired of feeling like a failure when I know that the world's in my hands. I've got every ounce of courage all bottled up in this big hole in my chest. I can't wait to get over myself and be better than the rest. Just harness your gift, girl. You're not like anybody else. You're an Olympian, superhuman. You can do things no one's ever dreamed. You're a natural, have no fear, 'cause things are never as they seem. You're more than what the world is ready for. Chase your dreams. You're an Olympian, Wonder Woman. This next song is dedicated to every magical Black woman in this space that has not only redefined themselves and what they want to be made of, but have helped me decide what I want to be. No, mama, we don't cry here. Thank God we don't die here in the garden. The fountain of youth has been inside of you all along, little goddess. Please don't be modest. You're holy and sacred. Get out of your head. Surely you know you're a flower reflecting the sun's rays. Come and seize the day, so everyone you come around will say cinnamon and angel dust, almond milk and coconut, sugar and spice, everything nice. Percolating coffee beans, love inside of everything, giver of life, genuine eyes. Give me a little elixir full of your magic. You'll fight evil by moonlight, win love by daylight. So we gon' be alright, we gon' be alright. Interact with me, y'all. This is a performance. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright, yeah. We gon' be alright. Princess Serenity, gotta be fond of me. I see my imperfections and I think it's got a hold on me. Gotta let the masterpiece that was created shine through me. If you can see it, I should be it. Inspiration, I'm created, holy and sacred. I won't hang my head, I've got to claim my own power. Reflecting the sun's rays, I can seize the day. Then everyone I come around will say, nobody like me has ever walked this earth. And I can't love nobody till I love me first. Got all of the tools I need inside this little potion, because I know the truth behind what all Black girls are made of. Cinnamon and angel dust, almond milk and coconuts, percolating coffee beans, the love inside of everything. Don't forget a teaspoonful of honey and vanilla. Spread spread your wings. I see you, queen, I see you, queen, I see us. Cinnamon and angel dust, almond milk and coconut, sugar and spice, everything nice. Percolating coffee beans, love inside of everything. Giver of life, genuine eyes. Give me a little elixir full of your magic. You'll fight evil by moonlight, when love by daylight. So we gon' be alright, we gon' be alright. Cinnamon and almond milk and sugar and spice, everything nice. The love inside of everything. Giver of life, genuine eyes. Give me a little elixir full of your magic. You'll fight evil by moonlight and win love by daylight. We gon' be alright, we gon' be alright. You are more magical than mermaids and unicorns combined. It's always a blessing in your presence when your little light shines. You're divine, radiant, beautiful, magnificent, melanated, orchestrated, peace, unregulated. You're everything to me because I'm yours and you're me. I love when your kinks and coils flow freely. God made you of all the things the world so desperately needed. You are a force. You, miss. I nod to you. I respect you. I'll protect you. I'll cherish you. Because you're worth it. You're gorgeous. You are perfect and imperfect. You'll fight evil by moonlight. The beauty of our magic. So we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright.